Okay, now we're going to continue on talking more about type. You have a lot of choices when you deal with type, and obviously they're important. When you start off, you have to choose a typeface. There's a bunch of typefaces, which can be overwhelming, and then there's styles of typefaces that convey different personalities. So in this case, we're using a sans serif, which feels clean, modern. You could also go for a serif, like Times or Georgia, which conveys a completely different personality. So I like to think of it as serifs, at least the Times. If you think of the London Times, New York Times, they're a little more traditional, classic, that kind of thing. And then when we go back to sans serifs, I think of them as cleaner, a little more modern. So you can come up with your own personality situations, but depending on what you're trying to communicate, those are ways to kind of figure out, oh, this piece needs to be more modern or it needs to be more traditional or classy. Doesn't mean you can't mix those two, but those are a good starting place. And speaking of starting places, sometimes when you look at this menu of a bunch of typefaces that you may not know much about, and back in the day we just go through all of them and figure out our favorites. So rather than being overwhelmed by the tremendous amount of fonts that you have to choose from, a lot of times I like to go to basically the browser, and you can just, instead of being overwhelmed, just search on popular sans serif fonts or popular serif fonts, and you'll get tons of results, and you can start right there and figure out, oh yeah, if we start with these, they might be a little tired or overused, but at least you're in the ballpark, and it gives you some direction on where to start with typefaces. So it's really important to choose the right typeface with the right personality to convey the message you're trying to convey. So remember, size, weight, is it bold, is it thin, is it ultra thin? And is it a serif or a sans serif? Now, there's other typefaces obviously beyond that, but let's stick with those for right now just to get you going, and look at some of the more popular ones, start playing with those and see how they feel and how they meld with your aesthetic.